Hey guys, it's Dr. Nick and Mike Sebastian with Divine Guidance Institute, Modern Day Mystery School, teaching you the ancient way of knowing so you never get blindsided again. Today, I got to tell you, we've got Amy's story. We were talking, and it was so fabulous, this story of insight and redemption, that we hit the record button. So we're jumping in the midst of the beginning of the conversation. But tune in. You're going to love it. It's outstanding.
Hi, I'm here with Dr. Mike and Nick and talking about knowingness and addiction and God and just the ultimate guide to survival and going through life. All right. So when you first get in there, you're kind of glorifying your situation. Like, oh, yeah, I'm here for armed robbery. Like, you're this badass, and talking about all the war stories and everything you've been through versus like towards the end of it, it's like, whoa, like this is not cool. This is not who I want to be. And really realizing that these people don't really care about you. They don't care about you. And I used to think like, oh, they all love me because they call me to rob this person, they call me to get them the new hookup, they call me for this. No, it clicked in my mind like they're calling me because they don't want to go to jail themselves. And it's like, how stupid was I to like fall for a lot of this stuff? And when you really need help, and then when you're doing better, it's crazy. Like people don't want to see you doing better because you were either feeding their habit, you were co-signing their misery, you were whatever it is. And so I really just kind of stay to myself now because I know how I am. And not that I'm worried about using, but I mean, I had 7 years sober when I relapsed. So it's not hard to do, but really just being centered in my mind and with God and all that is, and not being quick to react. That's the main thing that I focus on and think things through because I'm an impulsive person, man. I react out of emotion and then I'm like, oh, that was stupid. So just trying to take a step back and think about things before I do them and made a difference.
You nailed it. I even tell clients I'm on the phone with, like, before you do that thing, give it 30 minutes. You still want to do the thing in
Yeah,
30 minutes, fucking go do it. But just give it 30 minutes and maybe God will intervene.
right. And not just the time, that's a huge part, but I try to think of like what my intentions are. Like what is it that I'm actually trying to achieve? Because then you realize how petty you're being sometimes. Like certain things I want to do and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And it's like really my end goal is to try and smear somebody else or it's like, okay, what is that really productive? So you really have to just kind of take an inventory of yourself and know what you're trying to do.
It helped. Yeah, it always helped me to be in the moment, like in the midst
Yeah,
of I was in Nam for a year, and it was like being incarcerated. You couldn't get out of there. You couldn't leave the country. There was no way could you catch a plane to get you back home. So you were stuck there, and it always helped me to uh, be in the moment before I took some action and to breathe and to listen. Just listen because you've got a story to tell also in terms of listening to that inner voice and hearing.
absolutely.
I found out there that I had to be silent to hear that voice. I couldn't be battling and doing stuff. I had to at least breathe and listen for a minute before I took some action. And I'd always get the guidance if I had the ability to actually listen to that inner guidance.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Saved me a few times.
It's called saving your ass before you get it kicked. All right.
Man, you're not lying. It's crazy, but it's something that everybody has. You know what I mean? Like we all have the ability to do it, and you just don't realize it. And then when you realize it, it's like this is such a powerful tool that I've just been overlooking or not even realized that I was using. And I think in addiction too, you're so clouded by everything, you don't have the opportunity to even open your eyes to the fact that it's there.
You have
But
other motives. So even if something's giving you a direction, we don't follow it because we have other motives or other goals. So we're not gonna do
right.
that anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know a few times, like one time I told you before, this guy, I was in an apartment with him and I had just gotten there. I'd only been there like a day and he was just acting weird. And my gut kept telling me, you need to get out of here. You need to get out of here. But at the time, I was telling him we gotta go. Like I was trying to take him with me. I didn't think that he was the problem. I just knew something was off. And he's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. So I left all my stuff and I just said, all right, well, I'm going for a little bit. I walked to a complex across the street, went to come back to get my stuff, and the whole place was surrounded by SWAT. He had stabbed somebody 17 times and was holding a different guy hostage. And it's like I was in that apartment 10 minutes prior. So, your gut tells you things for a reason. Beneficial to listen to it, that's for sure.
So, yeah, wow. Just with the nick of time, you got out
Yeah.
of there.
You've been lucky.
Yes.
You've been lucky, and there is no such thing. In Divine Guidance Institute, we teach there is no such thing as luck or synchronicity. Everything's kind of planned out, and it depends on our consciousness and who we are and what we have coming and what we stepped into. And, my whole life, people always said, Mike, you are so lucky. Oh, Jesus Christ. You could find $100 bill in a mud pile. And it was like, because of who I was, I stepped into the better part. People call it luck
Right.
because they don't understand. And later in my life, I
Right.
realized it was all planned out and because of the decisions I made and who I was, and not luck. It's not
Absolutely.
random. There is no random. And, people don't like to hear that because then they're kind of like, oh, I'm responsible. Yeah. And that's,
Right.
that,
Right.
So,
Yeah. Comes the little accountability.
yeah.
Yeah, a whole lot of accountability, right? Karma.
Yes.
There's no
But so when I was in jail, I'd always believed in God, right? But I never had a relationship with God. It was like God was somewhere over there, and that was really all I knew. I didn't know how to talk to God. To be honest, kind of thought some of these people were a little whack because I'm like I couldn't understand how they believed so firmly in something they couldn't see. But I got to a point where I was just like, I'll try anything. And I remember the chaplain took us to church one day, and he was talking about talking to God and hearing his voice. And I'm like, hearing his voice, like this guy, because I'm thinking I'm going to hear like, whoa, or something, out of the sky. And it's like, how am I going to hear his voice? And he said, pray about it. And nothing pisses me off more than somebody's suggestion being pray about it, because it's like, that doesn't do anything for me. Like what is, and I kind of felt like it was a cop out, like it was just a way to end the conversation. But later that night, I was in my cell, and all I could hear is him saying, pray about it. So I said, okay, God, I actually got down on my knees in the cell, and I just said, if you're real, show me you're real, because I need something. I need something to grasp onto that's going to help me change, because I obviously can't do it on my own. I've tried numerous times, and each time it's worse. And I said my prayer, and I got back in the cot and tried to sleep. And I'm just laying there, and all of a sudden I hear in my head, it was like my own voice in my head, but it was something like I didn't know the Bible, right? So I mean, I'm pretty fluent in it now, but I didn't know. And I hear Mark 7:16. I'm like, what? What the hell is Mark 7:16? So I'm like still trying to sleep, and then I stop myself. I'm like, okay, just prayed for a sign. Now you hear this, you gotta look it up. So I opened the Bible to Mark 7:16, and it said, if any man has an ear to hear, let him hear. When I'm praying about hearing God's voice. So I tell you, like I cried and I had goosebumps. Like it was like I just knew, like it was like okay. And so from that point, my willingness to be open to a higher power, to God, to some bigger thing was there. And I think that's what was hindering me before, because I had too many doubts, and I just kind of wasn't putting my all into it. And so from that point on, I just like started this thing of constant prayer, thinking about things before I do them, running things by God, and it went as far as, they're talking about sending me to prison, but I knew I was going home. And, one day they came and got me, and they said, okay, your lawyer's here. And I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to my lawyer through the little window thing on the phone. And she's like, okay, I think you better take this deal, because they're offering you 9 to 11 years, when I was looking at 20 to life. And I said, no, are you crazy? I said, I'm going home. And she kept saying, no, you're not. And I said, God told me. And she looked at me like I was crazy, and that's how I would have felt then, prior to that, and I just knew it, to have the confidence in knowing that was able to make me, potentially, if I didn't have that, I mean, that's a big risk I was taking, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so couple weeks go by, and they have another court date, and I get called down, and they end up switching the prosecutor on the case, because I had one prosecutor she was determined to send me away and kept denying. I mean, my bond when it first started out was $500,000. Yeah. So the new prosecutor came in, and he said, well, we don't want to prosecute you because you're a victim of sex trafficking, which all was true, but it had no relevance to the case that I was there for. So I'm like, how does that? So, now I'm back, kind of backing away from the God piece thing, because it's got my mind spinning. And I'm like, oh, they're going to want me to snitch on somebody. And, I come from the streets and you don't do that. What am I going to do? Which is exactly kind of what they want to do. They're like, you have to give this person's information and you might have to testify in court. And I said, no. I said, no, I'm not doing it. More because, I didn't want my family to be involved. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if somebody wanted to retaliate, they look at my name, they see where I live. It wasn't fair to put them through anything that they had nothing to do with. And again, my gut still told me, my intuition, that I was going home. So I didn't have to do all this stuff. So I just said, no, I'm not willing to do that. They ended up deliberating and said the offer was still there for me to not be prosecuted on that if I plead to the felonious assault. So I ended up taking that plea, which was supposed to be 2 to 4 years. So it was way lower, right? But I was going to take the deal. And when I went to, I can't remember what it was. There was some kind of another meeting with my lawyer or something. And she said, okay, we're going to go in front of the judge and address bond, see if they'll lower it. And when we went in front of the judge, the prosecutor said, we're just offering probation. She doesn't have to go to jail. We're just going to, if she takes this deal, we will offer her probation. And I'm like, okay. So because they're offering me probation and no further jail time, there's no reason why they wouldn't lower the bond if they know that that's what the end result's going to be, right? So they lowered the bond. I called my dad from jail and I said, hey, they lowered my bond. Da, 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 da. He said, okay, well, I want you to, because I had court for another case too. And he's like, I want you to stay in there until that's over. He wasn't going to do my bond to get out. But for some reason, I just knew I was getting out. And even though it wasn't supposed to be till that Thursday, I know it's silly, but I knew I was getting out that night. I don't know why. I just knew. And so to the point that I started packing up my jail cell, putting all my stuff away and giving all my other stuff away. And sure enough, it was like right at dinner time, everybody was eating and they came up and unlocked my door and they're like, you're out. And I was like, so now where do I go, right? But yeah, just being aware of that feeling and knowing to listen to it is huge. It's comforting even.
Holy moly. So nothing was happening that day and you just knew you were getting out.
I just knew something told me. It was a Tuesday. It was only 2 days before, my dad was going to bond me out. So it wasn't like it was a big leap, but it was like I just knew that was going to happen. And even though I knew when the staff came to my door, before she even unlocked it, she got her key out. And I was like, all right, I'm out of here. And I had told everybody on the block too, because, you yell through your little cell thing. And I'm like, I'm leaving. Who wants what? And, they're all like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I'm like, you watch. And, they were all like, oh my God, when I got walked out. But yeah.
What had happened procedurally that let you out early? Do we even know?
Somebody that I knew had gone and paid my bond without me knowing. I didn't even tell this person that my bond was lowered. So I had actually asked them afterwards, I was like, how did you know? And they said they were up there up front to put money on my books because they were, putting money on my books every month. And when they went to do it, the little kiosk thing they used wasn't working. So they went to the desk and the person at the desk had told them, what is this going for? Is this going on the books or is this going to bond out? Because my bond was like, at that point, one was a PR bond, the other one was like $100. So it was only $100 for me to get out. And he was like, what? She can get out with $100 here. And so I didn't even have any clue.
Wow. Okay. So then you went with him. Did you go hang out a couple days before you went home, or what'd you do?
No, because I had court the next morning for my other case, and I did go hang out with him. And he's a sober person. He's good people, and his dad is the one that I was dating before I went to jail, who sells drugs, who is a mess himself. And one of my conditions of my release was to have no contact with him. And so he's like, okay, we're going over here. So we went to his house and chilled for a little bit while his dad's there. Okay. And his dad's like happy to see me. He's like, I can't believe you're out, all this. But being the player that he is, he has some other girl over there and she wants to fight and everything else. And I'm just like, you can have him. Like, I'm not even on that, like, I don't care. So she called the police. And so I'm hiding in the back room because I'm like, my only condition was not to be around this guy. And I'm like, I've only been out of jail 3 hours and motherfucking police are coming. This is crazy. So I was in the back room and I ended up leaving because after that I was like, this is crazy. I can't have this.
Did they come in? They didn't even come in? The cops? No.
They didn't that time, but when I left, his son gave me a ride to a lady's house in town where I just chilled out until, or I never went to sleep. And after I left, his mom's an old lady, she has dementia. She had gone walking, I guess, in the neighborhood, and the police ended up bringing her back, and they came in to the house. And so they had come back a second time that night, but luckily I was gone. Another situation there. So yeah, and it's weird. It was like seeing people because because he sells drugs, everybody's hanging out, just sitting there smoking, and I was so uncomfortable, whereas like the old me would have gotten right in on that. And instead it was like, I just felt gross. Like, it was like, ugh, you people are doing nothing, literally nothing. You're just sitting around doing nothing, wasting your days away. And that's what I was doing. That's how I was living. And I had no desire to go back, no desire to lose everything. And now being home with my daughter, who, that was my world. And when I messed up, I walked away from that mostly because of shame. But now, like, I know what I lost, and I'm not trying to lose any of that again.
So that night, did you go home that night, or did you go to court in the morning? Did he take you, or who, how?
No, I caught the bus and went to court and called my dad. I didn't want to tell my dad I was
Okay,
out
got it.
the day before, right? Because I just didn't want to worry him or have any. So I waited till court, but I didn't want him to, because he's thinking he's going to show up at court and they're going to bring me out of the shackles. So I called him like 10 minutes before court and I said, I just want to let you know I'm out and I'm here for court. So I'll see you. And the plan was that was a Wednesday. So the plan was I wasn't supposed to go home till Thursday. They were trying to kind of plan it around Leah's school just so, because she hasn't seen me in almost 2 years and didn't want to upset or anything. So he's like, okay. And I said, do you want me to find someone to stay for the night if that was the plan? And he's like, no, I think you should come home. And so I went home and I never looked back. That was the end of that. Yeah. It was awkward for sure when I first came home, and like I was expecting Leah to cry. She didn't cry. She was excited. I cried the whole time. But she's like, look at my room, look at it, and it just felt good. It felt good to be back. And she's told me almost every day, I'm so happy you're back. I mean, even to this point, it's been 6 months since I've been home. I have about a year and a half sober, actually today. And she still tells me, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're home. It's just, even though it feels good for her to say, every time she says that, I feel that guilt, like just kind of eat at me because I did leave. And I'm lucky that I have the opportunity to make it right now. So
Well,
that's what I'm doing.
shame and guilt serves no one. That's why the present moment is so important, to be in the present moment.
Right. Yep.
At a quantum level, Amy, the past doesn't even exist.
Oh.
It only exists
Right.
in our mind, so where we put our attention, where we put our focus. So to do yourself the biggest favor would be to stay in the present moment.
And that's exactly what I do, because there's no use, and that goes with worry too. I tell my mom all the time, I said, she's like, oh, I'm just worried. I'm sick with worry. I said, what is that doing for you? Nothing. Some things I guess you can't help but worry, but for me, it's just, I kind of have an overall just peace in general about things across the board because I am in the moment. I know God's got me. I know what to rely on, and I'm content, and it's crazy because even before when I was sober, even when I had 7 years, I never had this feeling of content. Obviously, if I did, I wouldn't have relapsed. So it's a good feeling. I'm in a better mood overall. My sense of direction, my sense of knowing who to be around, who not to be around, what choices to make, what's the right thing, what's the wrong thing, is just better, and I'm better at creating boundaries. I'm better at speaking my mind without being a dick, right? Because for a while I struggled with that because it's like I was a people pleaser and it was hard for me to set boundaries. And then when I started setting boundaries, I was like over the top. And so now just being able to say, like, for example, a lady messaged me the other day, you must be one of those people that was messing with so and so. And I'm like, I don't even know who she's talking about. But I just said, then when first I said, I don't know who you're referring to. She sends me a picture of the person. I said, oh yeah, we're friends. And she's like, I don't believe that you're just friends. I said, like, that's your belief. I can't help you with that. But that's what we were.
I can't help you with that.
And it's like, what do you want from me? And it's just easier for me to be kind of assertive and know what to put honestly, afterwards, I was kind of like, why did I even respond to that? But, there's still pieces of me that I have to work on, of course, but I'm open to that. I'm able to recognize where I have to be careful and where I am exceeding, so that's pretty much it. And it feels good. It's people notice too, like more people want to be around me. When I go to meetings, I used to never share. I never really, because I didn't feel like I was too worried about what people would think versus just saying. And now I go in and they're all like slapping each other, like this one's a hoot, listen to her. It's just because I'm unfiltered and I'm just real. It's about, this is what I went through, this is what it is, and if you don't like it, go to another meeting. I think the honesty piece and being open about where I was at keeps me from going back. Because if you try to sugarcoat it and make it sound better, you're just deceiving yourself. You're just hurting yourself.
Yeah, you were given a golden opportunity. You did good. Obviously, you had I mean, you had some good karma coming. It was like, oh, you're going to prison for a long time, or
Yeah.
suddenly everything's covered and you get to step into a new life.
Right.
The adversity, what I found is whenever we hit the wall with a lot of adversity, we really get our butt kicked. If we can embrace it and get through it, it's so much lighter and brighter on the other side. You have an opportunity, like you said, you go to the meetings, you share now. It's like a new you. And it really wouldn't have happened without that adversity. So, you did good stepping into it, embracing it, and now you got a door is open for you, obviously. And you're stepping into that new life, and you remain present and you relax and you don't worry about much, and it's like good. That's where you need to be. So hey, congrats.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, it feels good. It does. It feels like I made a breakthrough almost. Like I'm finally catching on. And I know it sounds simple, and then like to people who don't understand, the clarity and the centeredness I have inside is what's doing it. And I don't know how to really put that into words or articulate it to people, but because people that have known me for a long time know that I kept making the same decisions. And you can't just come back and say, okay, sorry, it won't happen again. That doesn't mean anything, at some point. And so um being able to just show it in my daily living and my daily attitude goes a long way. And it's almost like there's an authenticness to it that people believe is genuine because it is. And it's again, I had to say it's not really my doing. It's because if I knew I could do this, I would have done it a long time ago. So I'm just thankful for God. I'm thankful for the Hugh. I'm thankful for you guys. I'm thankful for my family, sobriety, everything.
I really found with karma, and it wasn't even until I got locked up that I changed my ways, and then they moved me to Texas and, all that, all those years ago. But anyway, so often Holy Spirit has to literally take us out off the field and put us in a timeout, put us on the sideline to get us
Yep.
out of that world.
Yep. Absolutely.
And the thing that determines, like, you're going to do 20 years, you're going to do life, you're going to do 9 years. Oh, you got probation. Michael mentioned it's not luck, but and yes, karma, it's all karma. But the thing that allows us to sidestep karma is our heart.
Hmm.
You have a pure heart. God knows that. Holy Spirit knows that. Your higher self,
Right.
the universe, whatever someone's belief system is, whoever's listening,
Right.
knows our heart. And the heart is what determines all the outcomes. And so
Yep.
for you to go to life to probation, God, Holy Spirit, like I said, knows your heart and knows, like, this girl doesn't need all that bullshit. She just needs to get a break away from all that stuff, get integrated back into the life that she's accustomed to. That was just,
Right.
you took a detour. That's how I see it. I used to say that on
Yeah.
the phone, just a detour.
Yes, I remember.
Deal. It's a detour. I don't know how long the detour is going to last. It's a detour. Okay, are you done yet? Okay, not yet. Okay, all right.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And so when it gets really bad, then, like I said, spirit takes us literally off the playing field, puts us on the sidelines, because at that point something really bad's about to happen. And since it knows our heart, it knows that we don't need to go through that. So that's really how the whole thing unfolds. It did it for me, did it with you, and countless others if we were talking to those people, but we're not. But yeah, so your heart has led you to some good outcomes. That's also why you were able to receive the sign with Mark that night when you were
Right.
praying, and I want a sign, show me, listen, tell me something, what the fuck? And then the inner voice, which is your higher self, but your higher self is soul and it's tapped into spirit. It's all connected,
Right.
And so you were able to listen, you were able to hear rather, and then you took action. You didn't just you lay there for 2 minutes, but then you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Get up, Amy.
Right.
Then you checked out the verse. Then you took the message even further. And then you were just rewarded. Oh my God, here. Let me show you how this thing works. Oh, you're going to get out today. Then you get out today. This. Then it's reinforced. And we start living that way. Once it's reinforced, like, oh my God, this is real. This is how it's set up. This is how it works mechanically. And it's almost like a reciprocal action between you and spirit as your best friend. And the more we listen, the more we hear, the more we take action, then we get reinforced.
Yeah. And it's so amazing when you see it because, I get excited, and, now I wake up in the morning and I check in with my higher power and I'm like, "Okay, what you got for me today?" It's like, it's fun, it feels good, and it's just it's I don't even know, there's no word for it. It just really changed my life, and I can't be any more grateful.
It's like Nick and I refer to it as kind of as a cosmic game. And if people knew what you've experienced and you've stepped into it, that knowingness, and you just know, you know you were going to get out early, you know this, you know that, people are thinking you're crazy. Stepping into that is like it's a cosmic game, and those signs and that voice, that inner voice, and the dreams, they're there 24/7. But people don't know it, so they don't listen, or if they hear it they just go, oh, that's my imagination, in a negative sense. Oh,
Yeah.
listen. But once we, it's a simple game, like Nick said. It's like, now that you've got it all, love is the answer. It's the heart. You got a good heart, you got to give and receive love. If you're giving and receiving love, that's the whole game. Everything's going to get into
Right.
alignment, move forward, be positive, you'll be happy. And it's about the love. Can we give it and receive it? And you're open to it now, so that's cool. Yeah, good job.
Absolutely.